Sheila.
Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to the village board meeting, 7 o'clock, Monday, July 10th, 2023. We have a roll call of officers.
Yes, Lieutenant Guy, Don Gotcher, Sarah Heisler, Chris Clear, Rose Towers, and Dan Wolf present.
Open meeting law compliance check.
Yes,
We all please stand for a pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic.
one nation.
Thank you.
Jeremy, right?
Any public input? If not, we'll move on to the Belgium Area Chamber of Commerce. Then we'll move on to the village marshal report.
Okay, for you and me had sent out two letters to get their yard cleaned up. One is in process yet, and the other one was by the old laundromat. They cleaned up all the trash on the inside, on the east side, and they got flowers planted there now, but he doesn't have a garage, and he's got a rotor tiller up the back and a hot tub. So I don't know if we want to make him get rid of all that stuff too, or I don't know how far you want to go with it.
Is that a new renter?
Yeah, there's a new renter down at the bottom.
The hot tub always been there?
What?
Is that a new hot tub?
No.
Is it like
it's not.
set up, like running? hot
I
tub?
don't think it's even being used.
Oh,
But, and he's got some lumber back there.
like behind the
Now,
building?
probably, I think probably just best to get rid of it. You know, if he ain't using it, get rid of it.
Right.
You know? And then we also had a dog, barking dogs complaints at 602 Main Street. It was pretty well handled until last Saturday night. I got a call at 10:30 at night that one dog was barking again. So I went over and talked to the guy. He wasn't home Saturday night, but I got him on Sunday, and he said the battery in the collar went dead and they weren't home. So he said he'd take care of that. There was also an issue with garbage carts not being put away by the apartments on Dean Road. And I talked to the people there. They said they'd take care of it. And there also was two mattresses on South Ave that were on the road for 2 days. And I talked to the owners and they got them cleaned up the next day. And then we had one with, I gave a warning to somebody for parking on the road more than 48 hours and they moved it the next day. So. And they're aware of it, so. Other than that, there was nothing else going on. Good.
Anybody else got any questions for Leon? If not, we'll move on to consent agenda items. I would like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through C.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 9, unfinished business, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding 9A update and possible action regarding property development, First Street and County Road LL, proposed apartment buildings and stormwater management. John, what are your plans for that right now?
Well, from day one, we presented to the planning commission for four family units for a total of 16 units. And then included on that site was a roughly 4,900 square foot stormwater retention pond that, based off of the ordinances, handled the water for that site. And then we found out that a study back in 2004 that the village had done, that lot had actually been the location of a regional pond. For whatever reason, the village has never acted to put a regional pond on that lot. You know, so I'm very thankful the village engaged the engineer to reevaluate the study from 2004. My understanding is he provided a letter kind of with the same recommendation that it should be an acre. He did propose, you know, a half acre, I think a quarter acre was also on there. So really, you know, I guess from my perspective, just want to hear from the board, you know, that is, I understand that the village engineer, that is a recommendation. You know, is the board open to smaller stormwater ponds on that location? You know, since the village has been doing those exercises, I had my engineer go back and say, can we get a bigger one on this site? We can, I mean, we can double the size of the retention pond and still get 4 buildings constructed. You know, but now it comes down to, you know, I don't want the village to be in a tip with their engineer. You know, just really need to hear from the village standpoint where they stand on the recommendation of their engineer. You know, I think we all know that lot was for sale for a lot of years and with no, you know, there was no activity. And the study was done in 2004. I kind of figured if the village thought they had a stormwater problem over there, they probably would have purchased a lot and put an acre pond in. But that obviously didn't happen. So, you know, so just looking for some guidance in that regards. You know, again, I think 4 buildings fit on that lot real nicely. We'll oversize the pond, you know, to not only capture our water, but I'll say help in capturing regional water. But we can't get to that acre. We probably can't get to that half acre, but we could probably get to that quarter acre. And then obviously, you know, we would work with the village as far as the maintenance of that and that kind of stuff. So we're just really looking for guidance.
Well, Danny, you talked to Matt quite a bit. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you have all that, you know, and comments and
Yeah.
everything, I mean, he suggests that we would only put a pond, a half acre pond on there, which is those. I mean, and that would be enough for 2 buildings. And the problem, right, is all that stormwater comes on, you know, that LG subdivision and part of Michael Street, stuff like that, so. And granted, we never had flooding, you know, by the freeway at all, so. And that's probably why the village never looked at that area, because we never had problems there, so. Do we take a risk and let John do his development, his full development, or? You know, then if you looked at Matt's comments, you know, then if we do that, then, well, we'll have to probably help contribute with his pond, because we got water coming in there, so. That's basically what you guys think, you know. The problem is, if we go ahead and all of a sudden there is flooding going on, well then.
How big of a risk?
Get flooded and.
How big of a risk do you think it is by putting just a quarter acre pond on there? I mean, what is it? 50-50 chance it'll be good?
I don't know, you know,
Yeah,
unknown, it's just,
The engineers that looked at this say, no,
yeah.
they're recommending a half acre
And that's,
as the smallest.
yeah, as we had voted in, they're both engineering firms sit down, we sit down with John's engineer and our engineer.
they talked
See what
about
they
it.
propose and, you know. Probably would be the first they could do.
working under that if we turn down this project because we want a bigger pond there, we would have to acquire the property and we would have to pay to put in a pond. And right now, I can tell you, we really aren't in a financial position to do that. So
Well, even if you would put some buildings on there, the village is gonna have to consider helping with that pond because we have stormwater.
How big is the pond across the way with those new ones? That
New ones.
that Ansay put up, like across the street of Tower, how big is
Well,
that?
that was enough for their development.
So what is the village liability in a worst case scenario that there is flooding? What liability do we?
That's a question for.
Hello, sir, please answer our question.
It's a good question.
He was like,
Not easily
yeah.
answered, though, because it depends on what happens, the causes, how you prove causation. I mean, we're talking, you know, not just the subject property, but what goes to it. I mean, it's, you know, to me, I think the recommendation of having the applicant's, John engineering firm, talk to the village engineering firm, see if they can come up with some consensus on what would be, maybe a happy medium here. That's probably, you know, would be the recommended course, because, you know, we're gonna have, whatever happens, there have to be some negotiations as to what would be the next steps, probably, for this development to move forward and for the village to address the stormwater management issue.
John, your intention is to put 4 upgrades.
Yes.
Could you do 3 or 2, or then it's not feasible probably?
From the efficiencies of construction, the numbers will get.
Yeah.
That's. And the 4, you know, to your point, I mean, the four buildings will net about 3 million in additional assessed value. To the village, and it's not phased, it's get all 4 of them rented as quick as possible.
Thank you, has no problem.
Danny, I'm just curious if this were to go ahead, I mean, I'm assuming the stormwater plan, if it was put in 2004, was based on future development. At the time, a lot of that wasn't there. So, I mean, and the village didn't own any of this land then. So if we didn't have this as an option, would we have alternatives where we would have to look at a different placement further down the line?
But the problem arises is the DNR changed their specs in 2008
Okay.
for stormwater management. And they made it stricter and everything, so they have to follow them guidelines. So when we did that plan, that was all developed, the whole subdivision was all developed, it was developed, you know, on Lakeview Drive, you know, the hotel was there and. So, but like I said, we never concentrated on that, maybe because there was no flooding in them streets and.
Well, I for one concur with Danny and Brad's suggestion that I think before we make any commitment of any type, we should have the engineers from representing the village and representing the developer speak to one another.
Yeah, maybe they can come up, maybe we can come up with an agreement, with, you know, a possibility, I mean.
John, how do you feel about that, sir?
You know, my team will fight to get the largest pond on there, but also get 5 buildings.
Got it.
That's.
I get what you're saying.
4 buildings.
Or, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, then I gotta change everything up. All right. That was recorded.
No, I'm not.
Right. Right.
There's the engineer's theory that, you know, we're gonna have a Noah's Ark flood one day, well.
Right.
Then stormwater don't matter.
Yeah, you're not gonna, right.
Now, I'm sensitive to what happens east of Belle Isle because I'm also a landowner east of Belle Isle. So I'm sitting here,
Right,
I'm not of the mindset of just screw everyone east of Belle Isle.
right.
Yo, dump it over there. So, but I do think there's a happy medium. That's the
Yeah.
board's wish, we'll get the 2 people
Together.
that are educated in stormwater together. And, you know, but that's what my team will make
Sure.
the argument for.
Sure. I think that's a good choice, just to make sure all the, you know, nobody's going back at John or nobody's coming back at the village to when the Noah's Ark flood happens.
You know, and, you know, I will throw out, one of the things that my team did was, you know, what is the largest size pond we can get on? And, you know, and that would include, I would say, taking some dirt from the property to the north. And we get close to a half. So I do think a half acre is.
I was just gonna ask that, can you go on to that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's your property
Yeah, but
both ways.
to Vicky's point, then that's a half acre, that's gonna be a big pond, puddle, whatever you wanna call it.
But nothing gets used back there anyway.
Correct, but I mean, from the village's standpoint, we wanna make sure it looks good.
Right.
You know, is it gonna be wet all the time? Is it
Right.
gonna be, you know, is it gonna fill and then drain, you know?
Right.
The engineers can figure all that out.
So it is possible for you to go on that other lot.
I think we can make a deal.
I'm sure you could.
And it
You
may,
can deal with your-
it may take some sort of.
Got it. Right. Right,
There's gonna be a maintenance easement agreement to access.
right.
And I would also put, you know, there is a pretty big line that runs through that lot that there is no easement for right now. Village, I mean, that thing could be ripped out tomorrow and the village would have no say. We would look at fixing.
Right,
So, you know, coming up with a better solution for that as well.
okay,
Well, I'll make a motion to table decision on this topic until such time that the developer's engineering team and the village's engineering team can discuss and
Recommend.
recommend any other best possible course of action.
A second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll go into 10A, discuss and possible action regarding year-to-date park and recreation maintenance and supplies budget.
So generally, our purchasing policy says that we need to, get board approval for out of budget or over budget spending. In general, that's by line items, so like the line item for parks. The reason that I recommended we brought this to you is because right now, our, parks and trees budgets have gone over budget, and while the overall isn't, by the time labor gets into play and everything, I think we're going to be exceeding it. I wanna make a couple of points. Right now, the total of $15,259.39 includes some costs that we paid out, but were reimbursed, which is for the flagpole. So we were refunded by the company we bought it from, the almost $1,000 for, that came over than what we paid originally. And then we did receive an insurance payment. We netted out only a cost of $1,000 on that. If you take that out, we're only at $13,834, so we're just a little bit over budget in that line item. But like I said, it's my belief that we are going to, exceed the parks budget, by the end of the year. And because the policy says we should, you know, come to the board for that. We had two big purchases this year that were out of normal spending. That was, aside from the flagpole, the players bench replacement was $14.51, and we had a cooler repair that was almost $3,500. My recommendation is that if we take those three costs, the $1,000 for the flagpole, the bench, and the cooler repair, if the board were to allocate that $5,932 from fund balance, I think our budget will be fine for the rest of the year, and that would just be an allocation for those three items. If we do so, our fund balance stays at 24%, which is what it is now. So it's a minimal hit on our fund balance.
And mostly all the major stuff is completed in the park. There's not much more. We get the wood chips done, we get, you know, the main park done, and with that cooler, that thing should have been replaced 3 years ago, but we had a business in here would just come and put free in there all the time, but now that business is not no longer here and can't get someone else, and then they never charged us that.
Right.
I almost wanted to replace it a couple of years ago.
Okay, I'm okay with the flagpole and the cooler, but the players bench, could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well,
Could that have been anticipated for
They were all- they were musted and everything, so we put new ones in, just like what we did in the other park.
Okay.
They're aluminum.
So it wasn't that they were wearing through, they were.
They were broken, so.
Here you got, is this, park and trees, is that $965, is that in trees, extra trees that you bought?
Well, what happened is we had a lot of trees that went down in Lake Hills Park, so there was a big gap between the property owners and the park, so there were. Years ago, there were trees there, so to fill that spot in there, it took that many trees.
And when the budget is done, we guesstimate what we're gonna need for trees, so, and what the cost is going to be. You know, I think that storm, or they came down, probably, was that after budget time?
Yeah.
Well, it's that last windstorm we had here coming up, we had some last year, and we had some this spring.
So you can't always anticipate exactly what you're
Right.
So making this adjustment, general fund is still intact.
Yeah,
Overall, still intact.
it's really a formality. If we go over budget, it's gonna affect fund balance next year anyway. This is really more of a bookkeeping thing, because the policy says we're supposed to get board approval. So technically, for Danny to continue buying what he needs to for maintenance, we could run into an issue. So if you guys do an allocation, it clears it up and we are within the letter of the law,
What was the
or
total,
the spirit of the law.
what was the total number we need?
5,932 is just the number I picked, and that's just those 3 large ticket items that we have.
Then I make a motion that we allocate, that we, recommend an allocation of the set amount,
932.
thank you, out of the, fund balance.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Okay, we're going to 10B. Energetic quote, Paul.
Okay, that is for a wastewater sampler up at the treatment plant. Right now, the one we have is starting to fail. The wastewater samplers are on a replacement program. So it would be covered, not out of my main budget, but out of a.
Correct. One of our, I don't know if I've ever explained to the board what this equipment replacement fund is, but one of our loans through the state clean water fund, requires, if we have that loan, that we have to have what's called an equipment replacement fund. And it basically, the idea is the same as our capital projects funds. We are required to calculate how many years life expectancy on every piece of equipment in the wastewater treatment plant, and save that percentage every year, so that by the time it needs to be replaced, we have enough money to replace it. Right now, we have almost $700,000 in that equipment replacement fund. And every year we have to recalculate and make an allocation based on what we need to be in there. So that is the purpose of the fund, is to pay for these things. A number of them are starting to come due because they had 20-year life expectancies, and it's been 20 years since we built it. But that's what the money's there for. It is, the purpose of the money is to pay for the equipment that needs to be replaced.
So there's that, and before the meeting, I had, all the pumps that are on the lift stations pulled, and I had to have two of them had to get fixed to the tune of about $9,000 to $10,000 a piece. Our hands are tied on it. They need to be, if I don't fix them, they're gonna catastrophically, and then there could be homes that are involved, and it's just, you don't wanna go down that rabbit hole. So that would be another 2 items that would be coming out of that equipment replacement fund.
How much is in that fund?
Almost 700,000.
Oh,
Yes, we have.
we're close.
I don't know,
It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be, obviously after the meeting, we're gonna have to, sewer and water's gonna have to sit down, and because like Vicky mentioned, the treatment plant is it is over 20 years old. And a lot of the equipment in there is 20 years old. When and where do you start
replacing.
in and starting start.
Before something goes wrong.
Yeah, so I've got a really good relationship with, pretty senior operator from the village of Saukville. I was gonna have him come over one day and we're just gonna, I want an unbiased opinion. I don't want to bring in an engineer to say you gotta
Right,
change every piece of concrete. And,
Right.
you know,
Do we have an equipment replacement plan already in place that
Yes.
covers this?
Yes.
So, okay.
It's kind of like, you want to say a savings account.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean.
So I mean, like a plan, like we looked at it and said, we're expecting we have to replace this set of equipment.
We didn't
this
get
year,
that,
the after,
no,
after.
no, that's what I'm,
Essentially, yes. Because there is for each of these life expectancy in there. So we know a number of them have already come due and been replaced. Things that are due to be replaced. That's why the fund has that.
Right.
So we have the money to do it as it's done. You know, looking at it and viewing it.
It's kind of where I'm at right now. Just like I said.
I guess I'm not the kind of person that just replaced because somebody told me 20 years it's shot. If
That's-
it's working good, why mess with it?
Because if one of them gearboxes go down.
Yeah.
They come from Germany. So the DNR, they don't care.
care.
They want it working.
But I think it can go another 5 years though.
I think it could go another 10 years. But I don't want to get down that point where it's, when it fails, it's gonna be.
Right.
It's junk,
right.
you know.
So for this ask right here, it's right around $8,000. Sounds like it was expected plan and it's covered under the.
Yes, along with the, well, the two motors that I got, the two pumps there, they have to get fixed.
Right.
I mean, that's just all there is to it.
And those two that have to get fixed, are they at about their expected lifespan or are they failing prematurely?
No, what's failing on them is just a simple seal. There's, seals that keep oil in between 2 points and the seals fail, but unfortunately, you know, you gotta get them pulled, you gotta send them out, you gotta get them disassembled, and then there's a pretty big step of stuff to go in there.
Well, is that the lift station?
Correct. Yes,
So that was originally, I have it listed as original purchase.
17, yes.
And the expectation was 13 years. But this is not complete.
Three times more.
Rebuild of it. So it's not routine maintenance. Routine maintenance comes out of his regular budget. This is just, it is allowed to do rebuilding if it's going to extend the life expectancy and or replace.
Okay.
So.
Well, this sounds necessary, so I kind of, I'm okay with it, but I just wanted, the reason for my question is I wanted to get ahead of, we're not going to be, you know, revisiting the same scenario frequently.
I hope not. That's, I mean, each year I spend a bunch of money and I get them all the pumps full, and we check them all,
Right,
you know, cause when they stop working, they just stop working.
Right.
You don't get.
you don't know that
you
they're
don't
gonna
get
stop. A
you don't
warning,
get a warning when my knee is starting to hurt and it hurts more than just.
right,
Oh, which are the two quotes, which one?
I'm gonna go with the one with energetics, because the one with USA Blue Book, I still have to hire energetics to.
put it in,
Well, the
or help,
program it,
oh,
and blend it into our system.
so that would cost money anyway,
Yeah, that would be,
Yeah.
you don't get energetics in the yard for $700 to $1,000.
right, so you might as well go with the energy.
So is there anything budgeted from out there at the treatment plant for this year in this budget?
Nope, not in that, no.
I
not at
guess,
all.
why aren't you putting something in every year?
I didn't know that the sampler was gonna let go. Well.
I mean, but you just told me 20 years and it's junk.
Not the samplers, the samplers, you don't, it's just one of them things, it's in a very, I'm gonna try a whole different area, because the environment it's in right now is very corrosive. So if it sees metal, if it sees, it does not like your refrigeration components, it just gets on there and eats them up. So now I'm going to move it to a whole nother part of the area.
It's
And it's
not gonna go on isn't that one of the issues that was on your CMAR? They looked at?
Yes, and it was also on my CMAR report, but I could have worked around that. He said it if I could. But, yes, that was one of the recommendations also from my plant inspection.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the quote to replace sampler equipment at the wastewater treatment plant with energetics.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? I guess what I'm just trying to get at is this stuff should be pretty much budgeted. You know, something should be in there for a repair. I mean, you're saying 20 years of stuff is junk? Well, then let's start putting it in there one a year or something like that.
It wasn't, that was in the equipment replacement fund?
Yes,
absolutely, we have the money there.
It's probably, I mean,
So it is in
they're
the
in
budget
there.
technically.
Any of the large items, the treatment plant, at the lift stations are all in on that equipment replacement fund.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be in the specific budget for this
No.
water, right, because it's in the equipment
The
replacement.
DNR wants it that if something catastrophic happens, that you have the funds to
Right,
funds to
got it,
make it.
okay.
And they're
Even-
real
even if
sticklers
it
on
were
that.
budgeted, we are required for. Anyway, even if it's on the budget, you
Right.
still have to.
Right, yeah,
So,
got it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Going to 10C, approve Class B beer and Class C wine license for Big Ed Smoke Pit Restaurant at 746 Main Street.
What's going on?
Shane's right there.
Excuse me,
I was gonna-
excuse me, have you done a background check?
Are you putting in
Oh.
beer? Are you getting beer?
Yeah, because we're expanding the hours, so if more people are gonna be there.
They're gonna want beer.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'll make a motion to approve Class B beer and Class C wine license for Big Ed Smoke Pit Restaurant, 746 Main Street.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Oh my gosh, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all for coming.